What's up, guys? Welcome back to Deeper Dive CFB. Today is part one of 3 parts of my Bowl preview. I'm going to be previewing the 11 games that come before Christmas. There's 11 games starting today, actually. I'm filming this Friday at 12:30. We have the Bahamas Bowl between Charlotte and Buffalo coming at 1, so I apologize for not getting this out before then. But this should be out by tonight, Friday night. There's only 2 bowl games today, so sorry again for that. Before I get into it, I did want to mention that I am starting a Bowl Mania group. Like I said, we have about 6 people in there right now. I would love to get more in there. Ideally, it would be great if you could get it in before 1 o'clock here, but if you're watching this video and you haven't, probably not going to be able to do that. But still, you're only missing 2 games. Feel free to join whenever you're watching this video, hopefully tonight on Friday night. You'll be able to pick the remaining 39 games. To join, just DM me on my Instagram at deeperdive_CFB. Send me your email and I'll send you the formal invitation. ESPN makes it really hard to just like copy a link and just send that out to everybody. I have to send you a formal invitation. So it's a little bit confusing there, but just DM me your email and I'll get that to you. You might lose 5 to 10 points, but in reality, there's 41 bowl games. You'll have plenty of time to catch up. Like I said, you're only missing 2 games. Feel free to join that. I would love to have as many people as possible in that group. Like I said, guys, I'm previewing these first 11 bowl games. Not too many, primetime matchups, but we got Boise State-Washington, Appalachian State's playing. Still plenty of good games in this slate, guys, and I think there's plenty we can talk about. So let's get right into it.
Yeah, and I'll be right here in my spot with a little more cash than I already got. Tripping off you because you had your shot with my skin tan.
So just to preface, in this Bowl Mania game, you can rank them by confidence from 1 to 41. Very similar to ESPN College Pick'em, except it's 1 to 10. This takes a lot more time ranking them 1 to 41, obviously. But I spent about 2 hours on it yesterday. Obviously, taking notes before this video, I'm very confident in these picks. So like I said, let's get right into it. With my 12-point pick, guys, in the Bahamas Bowl, which is actually in progress right now, score 0-0, I've got Buffalo taking down Charlotte. As I mentioned, this Buffalo versus Charlotte game is in the Bahamas Bowl in Atlantis. Very cool environment. It starts here in about 25 minutes. So sorry again I didn't get this out before then, but I'm still going to break it down. So Charlotte, very interesting team. It's only their 5th year in FBS. First ever bowl game. They're previously an FCS team. Obviously made the playoffs a few times there, but first time in school history they made a bowl game at this level. So very cool story for them. Before this year, never won more than 4 games. Will Healy came over from Austin Peay, built that program up. They hire him this year. He won 7 games in his first season. So very cool story, and you got to give them the respect they deserve. But at the end of the day, I think more than Buffalo, they're going to be a little more susceptible to be starstruck by this environment. Obviously playing in Atlantis, very cool environment. This is the team's first ever bowl game. They're still learning how to win. Will Healy's done a great job, like I said. I think they're a little more susceptible to be a little starstruck. And at the end of the day, Buffalo is a more blue-collar team. They're very physical. Finished the year winning 5 of 6 towards the end of the year. And the offense really started to come along. Scored 40 points in all of those wins. They do a great job keeping the ball on the ground. They got 2 1,000-yard rushers in Jarrett Patterson and Kevin Marks. Nice wins over a good Temple team and Central Michigan, who we'll talk about here in a second. Combine that with the fact that Charlotte's defense gives up 32.3 points per game, and they're playing in the Conference USA, so they just don't see physical teams like Buffalo. Typically, I don't think very highly of the MAC, but at the same time, very physical conference. I don't think Charlotte's prepared for that. Buffalo, I think, is going to come in with a better approach. Being in bowl games before, these guys know better how to prepare for this game, so that's why I'm going to go with Buffalo to win this game 34-23. In the Frisco Bowl, guys, with my 3-point pick, I've got Kent State pulling off the upset, winning their first ever bowl game in school history and taking down Utah State. This game will also be tonight at 7:30 Eastern on ESPN2. I think the biggest headline from this game is Utah State had 3 players suspended for this game. It's uncertain about what their role is going to be. Apparently, they are cleared to play. But I think the biggest story is one of those guys is their quarterback, Jordan Love, who's already declared for the NFL draft. There was some speculation that he might grad transfer after this season. But Jordan Love caught on weed charges. It was just misdemeanor charges, but so were 2 of his teammates. Uncertain about how Utah State's going to handle that situation, but I would figure that they're going to be punished in some way, and I think that's going to hurt the team. At the end of the day, they haven't been able to just click this year. Considering how much talent they have, they've not been able to compete with some of the better teams in their conference. Lost 31-7 at Air Force. Lost 41-14 against BYU at home, and also gave up 56 and a 56-21 loss against Boise State. So, Utah State just not been able to compete this year. First year under that new staff, just not able to click. And, personally, I just can't see them clicking in this game either, especially with all of the off-field distractions with their leader, Jordan Love. And then you look at Kent State. This is only their 4th bowl game ever. They're 0-3 in bowl games. I think they'll be very motivated to, overcome that trial and win their first bowl game in school history. They're not a flashy team by any means, but they have competed pretty well this year. They played Arizona State earlier in the year, and that game was 10-0 at halftime. They also only lost at Miami of Ohio 23-16, so defense is pretty good. They also beat Buffalo, who I mentioned before, and Eastern Michigan as part of a 3-game win streak towards the end of the year. So I think they're the hotter team coming in. I think they have a lot more to play for than Utah State. Combine that with the off-field distractions, I like Kent State to win this game 26-24 in the Frisco Bowl tonight. With my 1-point pick, guys, in the Celebration Bowl, I've got Alcorn State taking down North Carolina A&T. This is going to be a really cool game. Obviously, all the HBCUs, top 2 HBCUs, play in the Celebration Bowl every year. This will be in the Superdome, so a cool environment for both schools. That'll be tomorrow, Saturday, at noon Eastern on ABC. Listen, I don't watch a lot of either of these teams. I really don't watch a lot of, FCS football. And that's why I'm putting this in my 1-point game, because I don't want to invest too much in two teams that I really don't know much about. But at the same time, I've done a little bit of digging, and here's what I got. Alcorn relies a lot on their quarterback, Felix Harper. He's got 2,613 yards and 34 total touchdowns this year. North Carolina A&T is really exactly the opposite. They rely on a great run game. Their running back, Jermaine Martin, 1,336 yards and 21 touchdowns. Like I said, because I don't know much about these conferences, you have to base on some of the teams that we do know more about. Alcorn went on the road and lost to Southern Miss 38-10. Meanwhile, North Carolina A&T went on the road to Duke, lost that game 45-13. Now I'm just going to be straight up with you. This is a toss-up. I'm not going to act like I know a lot about either of these teams. I am going to go with Alcorn State to win this game, though, 24-20, and what should be a really cool bowl game. With my 14-point pick, guys, in the New Mexico Bowl, I've got Central Michigan pulling off a somewhat upset against San Diego State. This game will be at 2 p.m. Eastern tomorrow, Saturday on ESPN. 83% of the nation is on San Diego State. I think because they're kind of a West Coast team, a little more exciting. And they've had a pretty good year. I mean, they're 9-3, so I'm not disrespecting them at all. One thing, though, their offense really concerns me. They only average 19 points per game, but I think what's kept them alive is they only give up 13 points per game. They beat UCLA 23-14, beat BYU 13-3, and they only gave up 14 and a 14-11 loss to a good Hawaii offense, who we'll talk later in this video about. But I think it's a given that this offense is not going to score a lot. Meanwhile, Central Michigan, coming off a MAC championship appearance under Jim McElwain, former Florida head coach, they finished the regular season winning 6 of 7. In all those 6 wins, they scored 38 points in all of those games. They have a really good quarterback. He's former Tennessee quarterback Quentin Dormandy, ended up transferring to Central Michigan to get more playing time, certainly playing off. They also have a 1,000-yard rusher in Jonathan Ward. So Central Michigan, although they're in the MAC and that's kind of viewed as a lesser conference offensively, I think they certainly have better offense than San Diego State. San Diego State has really just grinded teams out, played a really good defense, played the field position game. At the end of the day, though, you have to remember about Central Michigan. They played Miami of Ohio in the MAC championship game, and obviously, like I said, Central Michigan came to that game really hot. Miami of Ohio did the same thing. They stalled the game, they controlled the clock, and they tried to prevent Central Michigan opportunities to score. I think Central Michigan, having already seen that, is prepared for what San Diego State's going to do. And at the end of the day, I'm an offensive guy. I think Central Michigan's going to figure it out. So I like them to win this game 27-17. With my 15-point pick, guys, in the Cure Bowl, I've got Georgia Southern taking care of business against Liberty. This game will be in Orlando, Saturday, 2:30 Eastern on CBS Sports Network. Much like Charlotte, Liberty is very new to this FBS level, and you have to give them a lot of respect. They're actually a lot newer than Charlotte. It's only their second year. First bowl appearance in school history, so very cool. It's also cool to see Hugh Freeze. Obviously, he had all those scandals at Ole Miss. Very unfortunate. I know Ole Miss fans hate him still, but still very cool to see a guy kind of turn his career around, turn his life around, and I think Liberty's provided him that opportunity. I still think he'll get a good head coaching job someday. We'll see, but he's done definitely a good job at Liberty. And you have to remember, he was like hospitalized. He was coaching the first game at Syracuse in a hospital bed. So really kind of a cool story for this Liberty team. Give them the respect they deserve. They have a great quarterback in Steven Calbert. 3,400 yards, 26 touchdowns to just 5 interceptions. They have a beast of wide receiver as well, in Antonio Gandy-Golden. He has 1,300 yards. They average 34 points per game, so Hugh Freeze is just in 1 year turned around that offense very well. They did beat Buffalo, but their other 6 wins, not one of those teams has a winning record. So Liberty, being an independent, does play a weaker schedule, and I think you certainly have to factor that into kind of how they are 7-5. Meanwhile, Georgia Southern had a great end of the year. Beat Georgia State 38-10 at the end of the year. A tough loss on the road at Arkansas State, but competed very well in that game, 38-33. And their offense really started to click a little bit. You have to also remember, they beat Appalachian State in Boone, North Carolina, 24-21. So Georgia Southern is a team that's capable of beating the best. They run that funky triple option, and I don't think Liberty is developed enough as a team. I don't think they're disciplined enough as a defense. Their defense hasn't proven enough to me that they're going to be able to stop that triple option. I think Georgia Southern is built much better to win this game against kind of a more offensive-heavy team in Liberty. I think they're going to really run the ball well, and that's why I have Georgia Southern winning this game 38-27. With my 31-point pick, guys, in the Boca Raton Bowl, a virtual home game for FAU, I'm still very confident with SMU going on the road and beating FAU. One thing to note, this game is going to be at FAU Stadium. Obviously, being the Boca Raton Bowl, this game is at FAU. It'll be tomorrow, Saturday, 3:30 Eastern Time on ABC. The one reason that I am so confident with SMU basically going on the road and winning this game is that, Lane Kiffin has departed. And I think, Lane Kiffin, obviously, in his 3 years, led them to 2 10-win seasons, 2 conference championships. He's a big reason why FAU has gotten to this point. And you just have to wonder how FAU is going to respond to his departure. Personally, I don't think they'll respond well. I think he's kind of that polarizing figure. I think not having him it's going to be huge. But I think the bigger thing is I think SMU, even with Lane Kiffin, is the better team. They have a more balanced offense. Obviously, Texas transfer, who I know very well of, Shane Buechele. He's got 3,600 yards and 33 touchdowns this year. They got a great running back as well. Very balanced offense, like I said. Xavier Jones has 1,250 yards rushing and 21 touchdowns. Also got a beast wide receiver in James Prochet. Almost 1,150 yards receiving and 14 touchdowns. Defense has been a little bit of an issue for SMU. But you guys remember, they're in the American. You'll see throughout this video, I'm not very high on the Conference USA. It was a very weak year in the Conference USA, and I think the Conference USA is a big downgrade from the American Conference. I mean, you have to think about, the American Conference as Memphis, Navy. Those teams are very elite, but I think also some of the teams like Tulane, even Houston, some of those other teams that SMU has played, even East Carolina, those teams are much better competition than, in my opinion, than what FAU had to face throughout this year. So FAU did blow out everybody in their conference, minus their loss to Marshall, but like I said, the Conference USA, in my mind, is much weaker than the American. They do have a good offense. OU transfer Chris Robinson is their quarterback, 3,400 yards and 26 touchdowns, very similar to Shane Buechele. But they're a much less balanced offense than SMU, whereas SMU has Xavier Jones, who's had a great season on the ground. FAU doesn't really have a guy like that. This is basically a home game for FAU, and I realize that. I realize this is risky a little bit, especially when these teams have had similar years. But I think SMU, based off their competition and how they've played, is a much better team. I've got them winning this game 45-28. In the Camellia Bowl, guys, with my 21-point pick, I've got Arkansas State taking care of Florida International. This game is in Montgomery, Alabama. It'll be at 5:30 Eastern Time tomorrow on ESPN. Florida International did beat Miami, and I think that's what most people remember them for, but they did not have a good year. Weren't consistently competitive against the better teams they played. They got blown out by Tulane, who ended up finishing 6-6. They got blown out by La Tech, got blown out by Middle Tennessee State, who is 4-8. And they got blown out by FAU in a rivalry game. There's just not enough consistency. They only score about 26.5 points per game. Defense is pretty good, but hasn't been good enough to win them these games for most of the year. Meanwhile, Arkansas State's been very competitive. They got a great offense. They average 34 points per game, including 306 passing yards per game. They have a beast of a wide receiver in Omar Bayless. He's got almost 1,500 yards receiving and 16 touchdowns. Just a big threat on that outside. First game of the year playing SMU. Played the Mustangs very close, losing that game 37-30. They also had a 4-game win streak coming into their last game of the year. Had a tough loss against South Alabama. But I think while FIU could win this game, I think Arkansas State's been much more consistent offensively. I think the offense is going to win out in this one. That's why I have Arkansas State winning this game 33-26. With my 6-point pick, guys, I've got Boise State spoiling Chris Peterson's last game as Washington's head coach and winning this Las Vegas Bowl against Washington. This is probably the most marquee matchup in these 11 games before Christmas. This game will be tomorrow night, Saturday, 7:30 Eastern on ABC. Big reason why this is such a big story is Chris Peterson, head coach at Washington. This is his last game as the head coach at Washington. Very ironic because he's playing his former school in Boise State, who he helped build up into what it is today. I think that'll be some motivation for Washington to send Chris Peterson out the right way. But I think the big question is it going to be enough? This is my 6-point pick for a reason, but I do like Boise in this game. This is a program that in their last 13 games against Pac-12 opponents is 10-3, so it's not a matter of whether they can beat these caliber of schools. They obviously went on the road and beat Florida State first game of the year. I will admit the Boise State quarterback situation is a little bit shaky. Hank Bachmeier, their freshman stud, Really has had a great year, but he's kind of been banged up, and I think some of those other guys, Chase Cord has kind of entered the picture at quarterback, and I don't think they're really sure about who's going to play. But at the end of the day, I think having Bachmeier healthy, I think Brian Harsin will have plenty of options. I think he'll end up picking the best one. This is a Boise State offense that scores 37 points per game, very balanced as well. Washington, at the end of the day, they have so much talent. They definitely out-talent Boise State, but they've come out flat way too many times this year. They came out flat against Cal, came out flat against Stanford, came out flat at the end of the year against Colorado. And, they got so much talent with a potential NFL quarterback in Jacob Eason. He's got a great receiving option in Hunter Bryant, but at the end of the day, I just don't feel confident enough to pick him this one. I wouldn't be surprised if they won. But at the end of the day, I can't pick them because they haven't proven to be reliable. At the end of the day, this is all about, what have you shown me? And Washington has not shown me enough for me to pick them in this game. I'm going to go Boise State to win a very close game in this Las Vegas Bowl, 24-20. With my 37-point pick, guys, I've got Appalachian State winning the New Orleans Bowl. Should be no problem for the Mountaineers. This will be the second game in the Superdome tomorrow, 9 Eastern time on ESPN. At the end of the day, nobody's giving UAB a chance to win this game, but I think while I'm not either, obviously, I'm picking App State with my 37-point pick, I am going to give them the respect they deserve. This is a program a few years back was shut down for financial reasons, and this is their second year back, up and running, and they end up making the Conference USA Championship game. I think it's a very good accomplishment. They have a good defense as well. They only give up 22 points per game. Play very complimentary football, but they only beat one team that ended up making a bowl game, and that was Louisiana Tech. And you have to remember their quarterback was suspended for that game. And as I mentioned, I'm down on the Conference USA this year. I think it's been a weak year in that conference. But at the end of the day, this is more about Appalachian State. They got wins, as I mentioned many times. They got wins on the road at North Carolina and at South Carolina. 2 Power 5 wins. Obviously, North Carolina has made a bowl game. I think they're a pretty good team. They also beat Louisiana Lafayette twice, who finished the year 10-3. They're playing at the end of the bowl season, so we'll break Louisiana Lafayette down a little bit later. But Louisiana Lafayette is a very good team. This App State offense scores 39.5 points per game, very lethal. They got a great quarterback in Zach Thomas. He's got 2,600 yards and 26 touchdowns this year. A good running back in Darrington Evans, 1,323 yards and 17 touchdowns in his own respect. Their coach Eli Drinkwitz did leave for Missouri, but I think the reason this is a little bit different than Kiffin at FAU, I don't want to be hypocritical and just leave that part out, but I think the reason this is different is it wasn't necessarily Drinkwitz who had built this program up. It was Scott Satterfield, who's now the head coach at Louisville. He left last year around the same time. They brought Drinkwitz in, and Drinkwitz kind of sustained it. I think now Drinkwitz leaving, I think they'll be more apt to kind of sustain what they've already done. I don't think it's like Kiffin's situation where Kiffin completely rebuilt the FAU program, made them relevant again. Now that he's left, they kind of lost their identity. You know what I mean? So honestly, I don't think Drinkwitz leaving is going to impact them too much in this game. And for that reason, I'm going App State to win this game big, 42-17. With my 39-point pick, guys, 2 from the top. In the Gasparilla Bowl, virtual home game for UCF, I've got the Knights winning with no problem against Marshall. This game will be in Tampa, Florida, virtual home game for UCF. This game will be on Monday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. Theme throughout this whole video is the Conference USA is not going to be able to stack up against some of these other teams. Marshall is one of their better teams. They're 8-4. Did play Boise State close, but they had some really bad losses. Not necessarily by who they played, but how they played. Played really bad against Cincinnati, played really bad against Middle Tennessee State, and lost by 2 possessions to Charlotte. Their one saving grace is they got a great running back in Brendan Knox, 1,300 yards and 11 touchdowns. But other than that, they are nothing special on offense. And meanwhile, UCF, this is a team that you have to remember, made New Year's Six Bowls the past 2 seasons. Obviously, Scott Frost got them back up and running. They beat Auburn in the Peach Bowl. Obviously, lost to LSU last year. Was that the Peach Bowl as well? I think it was the Fiesta Bowl. They lost to LSU in the Fiesta Bowl. But this is a team that lost 2 games early this year at Pitt and then at Cincinnati by a combined 4 points. And I think after that, everybody just kind of wrote them off. But this is a team that won 5 of their last 6 games and had a really hot finish. Ended up finishing 9-3. I think a big reason why they're not kind of at that New Year's Six level is they have a true freshman quarterback. Dylan Gabriel did have a fantastic year. He had 3,400 yards passing and 30 total touchdowns. He only had 7 interceptions, but I think the really unlucky thing about that was all 7 of those interceptions came in those 3 losses. So if Dylan Gabriel hadn't turned the ball over, who knows where UCF would have been. But that's a lot to ask from a true freshman. Just kind of bad luck. But basically this team goes as Dylan Gabriel goes. He's played well in those 9 games, and they've won those 9 games. He's He's been a little loose with the football, and those other 3 games and they've lost, unfortunately. But this is a team that averages 43 points per game. They have a great passing game, like I said, but they also run for over 215 yards per game. So very balanced offense. I think this is a no-brainer. That's why I've got it at my 39-point pick, guys. I'm going UCF to win this game with no problem, 48-21. In the Hawaii Bowl, guys, I've got BYU taking down Hawaii in a virtual road game. This is obviously the last game to be mentioned in this video. This will be on Christmas Eve at 8 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. This is a game that really could go either way. That's why I've got it at my 8-point pick. I'm not very confident in this pick. But at the end of the day, Hawaii just turns the football over way too much. They have a minus 14 turnover differential this year, and that really sucks because they're 24th in the country in yards per game at 470 yards per game, but they only score 33.6 points per game. Where if you're stat productive on offense, you would think they'd be a lot closer to 40. And so for that reason, I do trust BYU a little bit more. They won 5 of 6 to finish the season. Didn't play great competition, in that back half of the season when they were winning, but this is a team that also beat Tennessee and USC earlier in the year, as well as Boise State. So BYU has had some big wins this year. I think they're the more disciplined team as well. Not flashy, but they are consistent. And their sophomore quarterback, Zach Wilson, is back. Zach Wilson, obviously, last year in bowl season, went like 18 of 18. Like, he had no incompletions last year. So Zach Wilson's obviously proven at this time of the season. At the end of the day, those turnovers, Hawaii didn't fix them at all throughout the year. Sometimes teams are a little bit loose with the football at the beginning of the year, and then they kind of fix it throughout the season. Hawaii was just so inconsistent with the football. At the end of the day, I just wouldn't be able to trust them to win this game. I've got BYU winning a close one in the Hawaii Bowl, basically a road game for BYU. I've got them winning, though, 28-27. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this part 1 of 3 parts for my bowl preview. I'm going to kind of divide it up. Still deciding how to kind of divide up these games after Christmas. Obviously, do want to kind of devote more time to those New Year's 6 games and obviously the CFP games. So I'm going to kind of play that by ear, find out the best way to do that. But at the end of the day, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. While some of these games are not, marquee matchups, it's not like SEC teams are playing. I still think there's some very interesting matchups in this. Obviously, you have some of the better Group of 5 schools playing. Appalachian State, UCF is playing, Boise State's playing. So at the end of the day, I think while this is not, marquee football, I think certainly very interesting, especially for a college football fanatic like myself, and I'm sure like much of y'all are. So at the end of the day, guys, thank you again for watching. Be sure to follow me on both my platforms, Instagram and Twitter, at @deeperdive_CFB. I'll leave that right there. If y'all have anybody who loves college football as much as we do, be sure to share this video with them. Just send them the link to this video, see if they like it. I'd really appreciate that. I'm trying to grow this channel, guys. Obviously, it did take a month hiatus. So I apologize for that again. Just had to focus on my grades, but I'm back to making videos consistently, making more content. Like I said at the beginning of the video, feel free to join my ESPN Bowl Mania group. I would love for y'all to join. All you got to do is DM me at my Instagram, deeperdive_CFB. I will love that, guys. With that, like, subscribe. Y'all know the drill. I'm probably going to be back with a video early next week, kind of recapping this weekend's games. Maybe taking a look forward to the games after Christmas. We'll see. Like I said, I'm still trying to distinguish that. But, guys, thank you again for your support. I'll be back very soon with another video. Enjoy bowl season. Enjoy a great weekend. And we'll see you next time. Thank you very much.